Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we're discussing one of my favorite new watches of 2024, and this was launched late in 2023 for the 2024 model year. This is the Oris Propilot X Calibre 400 laser with a dial created entirely by laser ablation. So there is no pigment, there is no coating. What you're looking at is a micro alteration of the structure of the dial to reflect this combination of blue, green, and violet light. Also, the indices themselves and the text on the dial created by lasers. They are not transferred or lacquered on in any physical sense. The watch is also converted to a no-date dial, so unadorned, giving proper due to this unique dial without breaking it up. We have a case that is standard to the Propilot X Calibre 400, 39 millimeters in diameter, in titanium. The watch is 12.3 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, just the case. 49.4 millimeters. We measure end link to end link. The total horizontal distance across the wrist is 50.4 millimeters, and we have a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The watch is very light, but also fits beautifully. It's compact in a way that few modern integrated bracelet sports watches are. So out of the hand and onto the wrist, you can see the watch on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. Look at it, this cuff shot right here, demonstrating the conical bezel and the low profile. It will slide easily under a dress cuff, and down the barrel, which is always the definitive look, you can see that the lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. Even over the top, which usually exaggerates the width of a watch, you can see that the lugs do not go beyond my wrist. So I can recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. Taking a quick look at the bracelet itself, it's nicely done. It doesn't in any way feel entry level. That's difficult given the price point here, as well as the fact that it's made of titanium. It's not flimsy, it's robust. It's also nicely styled. We have these large intermediates, which are of staggered alignment with the sloped outer links. You can see how each one is internally beveled. We have these little beveled edges between the links to create a crevice, and then from the underside you can see that there's enough of a gap to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat. And then we also have this diagonal orientation for the flanking links, plus a little bit of taper down from the integrated end link toward the clasp. Likewise, the clasp does not feel cheap or flimsy in any way. This is where you commonly see very off-the-shelf parts in watches that are priced like this one. This feels bespoke. Now you can see it's designed like the hardware in an aircraft. You lift and unlock, and the mechanism itself is actually quite sophisticated, and then the gauge of the titanium used for the single fold is sufficient that it feels quite confidence inspiring. Something you might not expect to see on a watch of this price range. Removable links are fixed in place using screws, and there are quite a few of them, so you're going to get the right fit. This is really nicely done. Patek Philippe does not give you this type of link. You can also see right here that in addition to the diagonal orientation of these flanking links, they also have tumble home towards their edge. So you can see how from the center link, the outer links slope downward when viewed head on. Taking a quick look at the case, everything here is faceted and geometric. We do have a little trick sometimes used by watch stylists where the lugs ride up somewhat along the edge of the bezel so that the watch doesn't become too thick, or alternately you don't mind having to crop the lugs. So you have these nice long arcing lugs, but by sinking the bezel somewhat below their hoods, you also get a thinner watch. We have this turbine-like diagonal knurling that runs all the way around, reminding you that Oris considers itself to be an accomplished maker of pilot's watches, and in fact that is a reputation they've earned the hard way over many decades. We have the similar pattern on the crown itself, and then a combination of satin finish and media blast with the Oris logo. We do have a screw-down crown. We do have 100 meters of water resistance. Now this dial, you could see lots of color and yet no pigment, no CVD, no galvanizing, no PVD. This is not lacquered, it's not enameled. Literally all of the colors come by virtue of a method whereby the laser allows the dial to effectively cancel out the opposite wavelength of whatever color you're seeing. So for example, if you're looking at blue, then you're looking at a coating that is approximately 1/2 the wavelength of the yellow light, and it's filtering that out. And it's a little bit like the Mistachrome paint on late 1990s Ford Mustang Cobras, which were profoundly metallic but also dynamic, chameleon-like, changing color depending on the angle and the incidence of the light. Now, if you take a quick look, you can see here we have satin-finished blackened hands that are designed for a muted look, and this is an AR-coated sapphire. But there's lume here. It's just not a very serious kind of lume. Honestly, I would argue that the black luminova used here is intended more for visual effect with the lights on than with the lights off. As you can see, there's very little of it, and it fades very quickly. Also, as mentioned earlier, this is a no-date dial. Most of these do include a date and a quick set. This one includes only 3 hands. Now, of course, it still does include a hacking or stop seconds function. This is a wonderfully original concept, this dial, based on the concept of biomimicry, whereby certain organisms can reproduce certain colors to better blend in and fit their environment. Now, we're going to go to the back side. Caliber 400, with the exception of the date removal, is not changed, meaning it's the same superb 5-day power reserve automatic that we've come to know over the last 4 years. These are adjusted in 5 positions, which is the chronometer standard. They're accurate to better than chronometer timing, -3 + 5 seconds a day. Anti-magnetic to 2,250 Gauss, so more than twice mil Gauss. And then we've got a 10-year warranty and a 10-year service interval, both of which are industry leading. You can see that there is a silicon escapement, which improves the servicing of the watches. It has fewer performance drop-offs in between its 10-year services. That's a product of not relying on lubricating grease on the escapement. It also helps to endow the watch with some of its anti-magnetic qualities. Now, it's got a high beat rate of 4 Hertz, so they didn't dial back the beat rate to get the 5-day power reserve. You can also see the use of both Edicron for beat error and fine timing adjustment, but then for ultra fine timing adjustment, we have a small micrometric adjuster using a rack and a pinion screw. And we do have twin barrels, which is important because twin barrel movements tend to keep better time over the full duration of the power reserve. A single barrel could give you 5 days, but you'd have it surging and gaining time when fully wound, and it would start to lose time as it discharges. With twin barrels, you can phase the torque curves of the individual mainsprings and have a very flat plateau of torque from the beginning to the end without having to resort to tricks like, for example, remontoirs or fusee systems or differentials. So it is a very, very sophisticated movement. Just about everything about this movement, right down to its 30mm diameter, has been designed for modern watches. You can see how well it fills the case back of this timepiece. And Oris went with a deliberately muted techno-industrial look that perfectly matches the aesthetic of the watch in which it is set. So lots to love right here. And if you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.